First of all, I want to hear your understanding or take on this entire stand-in situation with FaZe and BLAST.
What specifically about it?
Yeah, just the entire thing. How do you see it? Should they have been permission and just the entire thing?
Well, from my understanding, I feel like they got like some type of approval from BLAST that it was supposed to be like allowed, but then when they got here, then someone like realized that they messed up and then it wasn't allowed. So, I mean, I think that there was like mistakes from like both sides, like where they should have like known that they like submitted their roster before that didn't have a config on it. I mean, if FaZe, submitted config and BLAST said that it was okay, then I think that it makes sense that they would expect that everything to be fine. And when they got here, then when someone from BLAST probably told them, hey, like actually in the rules, this isn't fine. So then FaZe has to scramble now for like a solution. So I think it just like really sucks like on both ends. Like whoever like made the mistake, like saying that it was okay to use config in the first place, probably made the biggest error. And unfortunately, like FaZe just kind of getting screwed from it.
You and Liquid also had Yikinda as a stand-in for a longer period last year. Is the entire stand-in and substitute aspect working ideally in CSGO? I know it's not from your side of thing, player and team, but from the tournament organizers.
What do you mean by that at the end?
Yeah, just are they doing the right things, with stand-ins and substitute, or is it something you will have to look into?
Well, right now, like usually for every tournament, you have to submit a roster by a certain date, and then like there's usually like a substitute that's like in there. But like usually you can't just like have like a player that's ready to go like as a sub. So I think that there should always be like an emergency like sub rule that like lets you use like whoever you can. And then at that point, the only issue is whichever sub that you're getting, if he's contracted to a team, then you have to obviously get permission from that team. So that like creates a lot of delays, and you have to figure out like if it's okay with that team or is it not. But most teams, like if you have to use a sub, you want to use someone that's really good, and usually like those players are going to be on teams because no really good player is just going to like sit on the bench forever. So yeah, I think that we're doing as good as we can right now.
Moving on to you guys. Liquid is a completely different situation than last year coming into a new season. What do you see as the biggest difference?
Right now, I think that the big difference is that like we're not like the underdog team like coming into the season. I think that ever since that we had like a really strong end to last year in 2022, a lot of people are going to be watching us. And we don't have to create everything from the ground up. We're not going to be as unknown as we were before. So before, when we were making structure and everything, people don't know exactly like where everyone's going to be on like every strat. But now people are going to be way more studied, and we're going to have to be making more of those adjustments. Kind of in a similar way to like how like when you're the number one team. Not saying that we are the number one team, but when you are the number one team, you're like the team that everyone's like looking at, and you're the team that like everyone knows everything about. I don't think that we're at that status yet, but when we first got Yikinda, we were a complete unknown. So now we're probably like 75% known or something like that. So for us now, it's where we have to keep on making sure that we're adapting in the meta and making sure that we're as unreadable as possible.
What clicked so good for you guys in the last part of the season?
I think mainly it's just everyone had a really good understanding of like the structure of the team and how we can like add our own flair and make sure that we're feeling as if, the idea is not that it's like our own, but like you get the most confidence from your play when you know what you're doing and like the options that you have and you're selecting the right ones from those options. And I think that's like what helps the most, like when everyone has a clear understanding of like what we should be doing, when we should be doing certain strategies or going for certain plays. And I think that's like what clicked for us.
We usually see Orpus at the top of the scoreboard in many of the top teams. Can you do more as a team to get oSee to be more impactful on the server in terms of fragging, or are you satisfied with his impact?
I think right now it's just like a bunch of learning that like just like needs to continuously be done like when within the team, making sure that like for CT sides I think is going to be like the most important, especially for like most operators and most players in general. Like most of like your higher stats are coming from CT side, and that just comes down from a really good understanding of like what plays you have available, which rotations you can do, and that's something that like we're working on within the team to make sure that like we have like enough like rotations and plays, to get the most impact out of Josh Zob and make sure that we're playing like as efficient as we can, because obviously it's a super strong weapon.
Do you maybe see him as a more of a supportive AWPer?
I mean, I don't think of him as like a supportive AWPer. I just see him as like Josh, like our AWPer. Like he's gonna be doing like whatever it is possible. Like he likes going for like those plays. Josh has like a really unique style where I don't know. Like I feel like Josh like just hits like crazy flicks. Like he doesn't. Like he can hit the crazy shots, so it's kind of just like up to him to make him get in those positions to show off his skill, and that's like the main focus for him like going into this season.
One of the things he is very good at is throwing flashes, where he was one of the most successful flash players last year after the player break. Is that something he excels in?
I mean, Josh definitely knows like all the utility that he needs to do. Like he's not like messing up like his flashes. He's not messing up like his smokes. Like if he needs to learn or need to know something, then he'll know it. So like I'm not surprised at all, and I think that he knows like all of his roles really well. So anytime that we're doing like a strat, of course, like all the flashes are going to be efficient and doing the job that they need to be doing.
How important do you think it will be for you guys to stick with the same lineup for now in order to be able to succeed long term?
Yeah, so right now, like coming to this season, we already talked about like our expectations of how we want this season to go, and we want to make sure that we're ramping up like in a steady pace, like going upwards, like going into the major. And that's going to be like the big thing for us, is like making sure that we're not burning out too early, making sure that we're not like coming to this season like expecting the world, and like if it doesn't like be given to us, because obviously this is going to be a tough season. Like everyone's like coming into this like super hot. Everyone's really hungry to win in this first half of the year. And we have like our own goals that we want to make sure that we get done in time before the major, make sure that like our map pool is as strong as it can be, and make sure that we're in advantageous positions against these other top teams that have other map pools. So just making sure that we're managing that and making sure that we're getting better at the right times and peaking at the right times, because we want to be winning at like the best tournaments of the season, and that's our goal.
What you're saying here, what do you think about the schedule this year for you guys to achieve this?
The schedule is way better, like phenomenally better. I think that everything makes so much more sense. It's divided in a way better way. So if you compare like every year prior compared to this year, you had about like 7 months, and then in the middle of the 7th month, you started the player break, and then you have a month, and then you had to get the same amount of tournaments done in those 3 months, 3.5 or 4 months, whatever it is, on the second half of the year. Which is just super inefficient, because the player break is just at some random time in the middle of July. So I think it's way better this year to be in the middle of June, where we have a clear division of equal amount of time in the first and second half of the year. And I think it works a lot better. I think the tournaments don't feel as cramped. Like just looking at our schedule this first half of the year and like the second half of the year, I think it looks way better. And I hope that everyone can see that.
With you guys being an NA team, how big of an help or a good thing will that be for you?
I think it's going to be really helpful for us and for every team. I mean, not even just like us as an A team, because I talked to a couple other teams like here and there at EPL finals and some other tournaments, and everyone is traveling a ton. Everyone is like just back to back, going to boot camp to tournament to boot camp to home for 3 days to boot camp to tournament, and that's just because the second half of the year was just crazy. Like you just can't have that many tournaments in a 4-month period. It's just literally impossible. I mean, well, it's possible, but it's going to be extremely cramped. So I think that it just helps everyone. It helps the players not feel like as much of a burnout, and we'll have like more practice stretches. At least that's like the goal. And like from what I see in the schedule right now, of course, it's really nice for us, but we're going to have like our own like solutions to make sure that we're getting like the most efficient practice possible when we are going to be home, making sure that we're like mixing in like the boot camps like when we need to before like the important tournaments and everything like that.
What is the state of NACSGO right now? I know it's a big question, but more in terms of practice. And when you're back, do you think it's looking better?
Well, right now it's the times that we have been playing in NA. It's been either Yikinders like come back with us, or that's only been like one time, and then all the other times he's just been like staying in EU. And the really unfortunate thing is that like a lot of NA teams practice really late because not all of them are full time, and that obviously makes it kind of difficult for us since Merrick's he's still in Europe at that time, or even Keith is like in Europe, and the rest of us are all NA. So we're just trying to like figure out like the best solution. We've even like tried playing EU from NA, which honestly isn't even that bad. Like the ping is like whatever, like we can still like hit our shots and play and get something out of it. So it's kind of more of like a scheduling problem right now, where we can't like have like Merrick's like traveling forever. We can't have us like traveling forever. So we're just trying to find like a compromise of like how we can have like the most efficient off time that's not like a boot camp or a tournament.
Has the team considered moving to Europe in longer time of the season? I know you have a boot camp in facilities in Netherlands.
Yeah, I mean, legally and tax reasons, we're not like officially like European, like living in like Europe or anything like that. But like, for example, like the second half of last year, we were in Europe pretty much we were pretty much gone for a month and a week, and then home for like 7 days, and then we would be gone for another month, come back home for like 10 days, and then we were gone for like another month and a half. So I don't know if you can consider that living in Europe, but like I would consider that I'm traveling the entire time and not even at home. So however you want to like say it with your linguistics or whatever you want to say about it, like we're already spending a crazy amount of time. Like if it's necessary and we think that like we need to be there and be doing those boot camps and we have to go to these tournaments, then we're going to be doing whatever is necessary. So I don't think that anyone should be like getting the wrong idea that like, oh, why don't they just move to EU? Like, hey man, like we're pretty much there as much as like humanly possible right now.
So do you think you'd cherish the player breaks and the holidays more?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do. I think that it's very necessary, just in terms of like burnout, making sure that you have like a good off time. But for us as a team, like we want to be the best, we want to win, and we put in as much like travel time as necessary. We were gone like the schedule was as what it was. It was like gone for like a month, home for like a week, gone for a month, home for a week. So we're putting in the time, we're putting in like the boot camps, anything that we need to win.